Now, it may not seem like that big a deal, but I can tell you that week after week, year after year, this was the pattern. And I reinforced a stressed way of going through the world because I just never had it together. It was so painful. I felt very low in myself, low self-esteem. But more than that, I was feeding a sense of anxiety. I was repeating a pattern. And the pattern was creating such an uncomfortable feeling that my forms of distraction from the pain would need to become greater and greater.
Good morning, Tommy. It's great to be in community with everybody from Recovery 2.0 family this morning. I'm calling in from St. John's, Newfoundland, and I'm in a recovery of discovery. I started this path about 20 years ago, and I had 2 relapses, and today is 11 years of sobriety, and I'm so proud. Yes, I'm very proud of that. And in 2000, I was white knuckling for a long time. In 2014, I got your book for Christmas. And 2015, I went to Kapala to the recovery conference. And in that conference is that morning session. I'll never forget it. You did a breath work, you did some movement, you did a meditation. And once in my life, I felt in my mind silence. And it really, really fucked me up. I didn't know what it was. And I just ran to the water. It was like being a person living on an island, I just had to run to the water. I didn't know what it was. It scared me. But I knew it was something that I wanted. I want more of that, but I didn't know what it was. So I worked with Recovery 2.0 for many years. My recovery has been slow, very steady. I take it very seriously. It's my life. It's my lifeline. I have a lot of people in my life that I love that lost their life to this disease. So I feel very fortunate that the Creator chose me to have recovery today. And I know from your book, you talk about the big 6. And I feel that I have no desire for alcohol ever again. Every day I see miracles in my relationships, and my codependence is healing every day. Four Aggravations that you talk about in your book: negative thinking, self-doubt, resentment, and procrastination. I got a little bit of all that going on, but my question today is about procrastination. Is it common that people that got recovery, I feel that I got solid recovery, but I still got those things, especially procrastination, in my life? Is there a way through this? Is this a trait in recovery and the last part of the healing for me, or for people that suffer in that way?
Procrastination. Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Daphne. Okay. So first of all, thank you for being such an incredible community member. So supportive, so loving, so helpful to so many people. And your presence is felt by our community. And I'm grateful to you all these years that we've known each other. And it delights me that you're here in the circle today. I'm also kind of excited that you bring up the 4 aggravations and that you also invoke the big 6. So I just want to quickly name those, and then we'll dive into your inquiry specifically about procrastination. Is that okay? Okay. So I've written and spoken quite a bit about the big 6 addictions, which are the outward manifestations of addiction that we see people getting tripped up in. So they are drugs, drug addiction, alcohol, food addiction, food-based addictions, people addictions. So these are like codependency and sex addiction, money-based addictions, gambling, shopping, being constantly in a state of debt, and then technology addiction, which is really important because almost everybody in our society now has that to some degree or another. So that's the big 6. Those are the big sort of 6 areas. And of course, almost anything can become an addictive behavior if it moves you away from a presence and awareness of the present moment. Beneath the big 6 addictions are the 4 aggravations. I still call these addictions and addictive behaviors, even though they're more subtle in a way. So the 4 aggravations are negative thinking, self-doubt, procrastination, and resentment. Now, a lot of people will say to me, Tommy, those are not addictions. We don't crave those things. But by my definition of addiction, which is any behavior you continue despite it bringing negative consequences into your life, those 4 aggravations absolutely are addictions. And then some people will say, well, wait a minute, I don't continue negative thinking. I don't continue self-doubt. I don't continue procrastination. Those are things that just happen. I have no control over those things. And of course, I have to point out to the person that that's absolutely not true. That there is we are repeating patterns of negative thinking. We're repeating patterns of self-doubt. We're repeating a pattern of procrastination. And we're deciding to hold on to resentment, even though it may not seem like it at first glance. So these are addictive behaviors, and you've decided to key in on procrastination itself, which is really interesting and relevant for me because I would say procrastination was one of the most painful patterns of my entire life, of particularly my entire childhood. So I would get home from school on a Friday, every Friday for my entire childhood, committed to getting my homework done from the point when I had homework. Maybe that was like 3rd grade, 4th grade, we started having homework, and I'd say on Friday, let me get this done so that I can enjoy the weekend and be free. Let me just get this done. And unfortunately, I'd be distracted. I'd want to do something else. I didn't have the ability to sit still and stay with it. I'd get confused. I'd be overwhelmed, and I wouldn't do it. Saturday would come around, I'd go through the whole day. Sunday would come around, go through the whole day. And the problem is that in the back of my mind, I know there's something that I want to do that I'm not doing. There's something that's actually important to me, but I'm not paying attention to it. So very much like white noise in a room, like a fan on in the background that you hear all the time, but you stop noticing it after a while. That's how my weekends were. Was I was never fully comfortable because I was nagged by the thing that I knew I needed to do but wasn't tending to. And that's procrastination. Procrastination sounds like this. I'm not going to do what I need to do. Instead, I'm going to distract myself from the painful condition I'm in because I'm not doing what I need to do. And it sounds ridiculous on the surface. So I would get to school on Monday morning and I would be behind. And I would have the sense and the stress of being behind the other kids. And I would feel badly about that. I knew I had the smarts. I knew I had the mental capacity to do these things. It wasn't beyond me. But I seemed to lack the ability to sit still. I seemed to lack the focus or whatever it was that I needed to get stuff done. I didn't have it. And so every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was playing catch up. And I might get caught up by Thursday or Friday, only to repeat the same experiment again the next weekend. Now, it may not seem like that big a deal, but I can tell you that week after week, year after year, this was the pattern. And I reinforced a stressed way of going through the world because I just never had it together. It was so painful. I felt very low in myself, low self-esteem. But more than that, I was feeding a sense of anxiety. I was repeating a pattern. And the pattern was creating such an uncomfortable feeling that my forms of distraction from the pain would need to become greater and greater. And for me, they became cannabis, alcohol, later on psychedelics, later on cocaine, later on heroin. And I'm not saying that my drug abuse was completely, totally related to procrastination. but I couldn't tell the full story of addiction if I didn't include it. And so the fact that you asked this inquiry and you asked us to focus in on this is so important, so relevant for me. And I hope I've made the relevance of this to my life clear to you and clear to everybody. There's a direct connection between this behavior and low self-esteem. There's a direct connection between this behavior and parents putting their kids on medication for ADHD or ADD. And maybe that's necessary in some cases, but in many of the cases, what was necessary was what happened for me one particular weekend. Maybe it was the one weekend where I didn't procrastinate. I actually told my family member what was going on with me. I told them the truth. I said, I'm so anxious. I'm so stressed out about this homework, and I don't even want to look at it. And this person sat down with me and problem by problem, question after question, went through it with me, talked me through it, helped me think through the problems, helped me work my way to the solutions, helped me write and express myself. In a weekend, I got to experience, this is probably in 9th or 10th grade after sort of 9 years of this, maybe 6, 7, I don't know, from whenever I started having homework until this point, struggle. But here was a weekend where I told the truth. I need help. I can't do this. I'm stressed out. And somebody helped me think through it. And it wasn't that I had a focus problem. It was that I needed a certain kind of attention and a certain kind of help. Now, I was never put on any medication, thank God. Later on, I would self-medicate myself in certain ways. But I was never put on Ritalin. I was never put on Adderall, thank God. Someone like me with Adderall, that would not have ended well. So the point is that later on in life, I would sort of take a look at the anatomy of my thinking around procrastination. And I would come up with some very interesting conclusions. Number one, procrastination was coming out of a sense that I couldn't complete the task. Number one. There were a number of reasons I felt that. It wasn't even necessarily a disbelief in my ability to complete a task, as much as it was a disbelief in my ability to sit still long enough to complete the task. And that's an interesting delineation because I needed to be able to sit still so that I could do the thing that would require some time and attention and get it done. I could always get it done. And I was somebody that needed a little bit of support. And so I've managed to get that support in my life to help me complete tasks. And I've been able to complete unbelievable things in my life for somebody who came from such a struggle with this. But another thing that would cause me to think I couldn't complete the task was the enormity of the task. For example, writing a book. So you mentioned my book, Recovery 2.0. It came out in 2014, and people would say, how long did it take you to write that book? And the accurate thing would have been to say, well, it took me my entire life to that point to actually sit down and get that thing out. But the truth is I really, really wanted to write a book from about the age of 19. So it took me about 25 to 30 years for me to actually follow through on a very strong desire that I had to write that book. Now, I had more living to do and I had more things I needed to do to be able to write that book. But the point was that I had wanted to do it for so long, and all I could think of when I started to sit down was the entire book. I wasn't thinking about one step at a time, one paragraph at a time. Hey, write a good paragraph today. Hey, why don't you write one page of something today? Just sit and write. Like many writers tell you, all you have to do is sit and write, even if it's not good. It's okay. Just be in the process of sitting and writing, and some of those days something really good is going to come out, and you'll compile that later on. You'll have help to compile that into a book. Instead, I would look at the enormity of chapters and the whole concept, and it would paralyze me in my tracks. That paralysis would lead directly to procrastination, and I wouldn't even take the first step because I just didn't believe I could get it done. It was too daunting for me. The reason that's so important is that would mean I needed a strategy to break out of my procrastination. I needed a way to break out of procrastination. And here's what the way was. Just like the old adage, the journey of 10,000 miles starts with a single step. I would have to learn to take things in small amounts. And I would have to learn to be steady over time, just the same way I've been sober for almost 32 years. I couldn't be 32 years sober in the first month of sobriety, even though I might have wanted to be. No, I was going to have to earn that one day at a time for 32 years. If I had ever thought in the beginning, wow, someday I'm going to be 32 years, first of all, that would have scared the crap out of me and I wouldn't have gotten sober in the first place. Because when I was first getting sober, I wasn't sure I wanted to be 32 years sober. I wasn't sure I wanted to be sober at all. All I knew was I had to make it through another day because I had almost killed myself. One day at a time proved to be the strategy that was necessary for someone like me, not just in terms of my recovery, but in terms of anything that I would set out to do. So the beautiful saying that I was given by a wise teacher, his name is Robert Jameson. I want to invoke his name because he's such a brilliant teacher and a guide to many. And he's written many children's books, and he's just an incredible man. On this topic of procrastination, he said, small things done consistently in strategic places over time bring progress. Small things done consistently in strategic places over time bring progress. And that saying has been like an unbelievable teaching that opened up possibilities in my life that I would never have seen otherwise. That saying allowed me to start my business. That saying allowed me to write a book. That saying allowed me to do anything that took time and steadiness. I didn't have to do the whole thing. All I had to do was the next right thing. Just a little something that would be a step toward the goal. And I also would learn a teaching called the 3 Ds. The 3 Ds. The first D was desire. So having a heartfelt desire to do something is also necessary. If you don't have a heartfelt desire, you might find yourself procrastinating. Why? Because it's not really what you want to do. So your mind might be telling you to do something that your heart really isn't behind. And that would be another reason, aside from paralysis, aside from overwhelm, that would be another reason. If your heart is not in it, that's a good thing to look at. Is my heart really in this? The second D was direction. If you have a heartfelt desire to do something, but you didn't know exactly what to do, or you had confusion about how to do it, well, you needed direction. You needed to get good direction from somebody who had done the thing that you wanted to do. You'd get a teacher. If you want to learn the piano, I mean, there are people who have taught themselves the piano, but at some point in their journey, they usually learn from watching other people, at least if they're not being instructed. It really helps to have a great teacher. You could get direction to achieve the thing you wanted to achieve. And if you knew how to do it, and all you had to do was just apply the next right little piece of direction, that will cut down on procrastination right there. If you don't know how to do it, and you're unwilling or unable to seek direction, that would lead directly to procrastination because you literally don't know what to do. And maybe you've tried to do a whole bunch of things by yourself and you didn't do it so well and you lost faith in yourself. Not because you weren't capable of doing something, but you hadn't yet proven yourself capable of asking for someone's guidance and support, which is Very true for recovery, by the way. We need guidance and support in recovery from addiction, for sure. And then the third D, once you had that heartfelt desire and you also had good direction, you would need discipline or devotion. Either word you can use there, discipline or devotion. You had to apply the teachings. You had to actually take an action to apply the things that you had learned. If you don't have that devotion, you don't have that willingness to be a student of a path, which really what discipline is, just being a student. If you didn't have that and you couldn't apply the lessons that you had learned, drift right into procrastination once again. So these are all these important lessons and strategies for overcoming one's procrastination. Do I have a heartfelt desire? Do I know how to do it? If not, am I willing to get direction? Am I willing to apply the direction slowly? Small things done consistently in strategic places over time will bring progress. If I'm willing to do these things, that's a strategy that will lead anybody beyond procrastination. One more thing that I would say leads a person to procrastination is they lose faith. Losing faith. You can lose faith in yourself. You could lose faith in your teacher. You could lose faith in the process. If you lose faith and doubt comes in, doubt will pull the rug out from underneath anybody. And that will lead directly to procrastination. You just won't do it. So we have these strategies set up. And then there's incredibly practical corollaries for these strategies. We could take the example of our morning spiritual practice that we suggest in Recovery 2.0, what we call sadhana practice. When people really learn how powerful sadhana is, they say, okay, I'm going to do an hour a day, every day, right away, And it's like, hang on a moment. Let's start with 10 minutes. Let's set ourselves up for success. Because there are going to be mornings when you wake up and you're going to think an hour, oh my God, I'm not going to do it. It's too much. I'm daunted by this. It's just too much. But if you're strategic and you set yourself up for success, the success is going to create in you a desire to continue, especially when you start seeing the benefits of the practice. And that will beget itself. And maybe your 10 minutes leads to 15 minutes. Maybe your 15 minutes leads to 30 minutes. Maybe someday your 30 minutes leads to 60 minutes, but it doesn't matter because you're having that spiritual connection. You're connecting with yourself. You're moving the body. You're using the breath and you're calming the mind a little bit every day. And the most incredible things happen. Progress gets made just by doing the small things. So even in that example, you can see, just start with something that's manageable. Now, Daphne, because I know you so well, because I know that you have felt about yourself that you haven't had the right education or this education or that education, and you've brought this up, I'm going to say that at times in your life, maybe you haven't believed in yourself. But the truth is I've known you. I know you to be brilliant. I know you to be brilliant. I've seen your brilliance. And I've seen your ability to complete and to learn and to do amazing things. And I see the way that you affect people when you're around them. I only invoke this to say that when we feel and we carry these stories about ourselves, about how we're not this or we are that or blah, 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 that also will feed our procrastination. And it'll sound inside like, I can't do it, or I've never done it before, so why even bother trying now? And of course, that's just misperception, and that's just a story. And that story is a story that keeps you stuck in that story. Because if you listen to that story and you don't begin the process, then there you are. You're in your procrastination once again. So that story has to be broken. Whatever self-doubt we have, which is the second of the four aggravations, whatever self-doubt we have to get away from it. We have to transcend it, heal it. We have to move beyond it. And we have to come into an empowered place where we have the confidence to ask for help. the confidence to say, this is my heartfelt desire, the confidence to take one step at a time, one task at a time, one day at a time, and to move forward to complete the thing that our heart is asking us to do. And when we fall short, we own that. We say, well, I didn't do so great today, but tomorrow is another day, and I'm going to get the help I need. Maybe you get an accountability partner also. It's good to have accountability when we want to overcome procrastination. Like me going to the gym or going to yoga class every day. Do you know that I've never gone to a yoga class and not enjoyed that? Never once. And yet I still resist it some days. I've never been to the gym and worked out and not enjoyed that. I've never once. And yet I know that if I have a trainer there or I have somebody that I'm going to meet at the gym, it increases the likelihood of me going. Now I can be frustrated with myself that I'm not somebody who is self-motivated to get to the gym without anybody else being there. Or I can just invite a friend along and say, hey, let's go to the gym, and greatly increase the likelihood that I get there, which would be the wise move. Obviously, invite the friend along, have a trainer there, get to the gym, and be in acceptance of the aspects of myself that prevent me from getting there. So these are the things that I've been able to unpack in my life around this thing called procrastination. The most wonderful things have happened for me in my increased ability to sit still, to be with myself. And that comes from having developed a meditative mind through the practice of meditation. And that has made so much possible in my life that couldn't have been possible otherwise. So that's yet another thing. Calm the mind. And when the mind calms, this beautiful channel of creativity opens up and it all becomes possible. What are your thoughts as we explore this?
Well, thank you so much, Tommy. It makes total sense. And your story of your childhood is so much like mine in high school and all that. I'm just really grateful for my morning sadhana that I do have the calming of my mind right now. So, and appreciate this community of accountability, and I'll step into my new life, and I'm excited for that. Thank you.
Beautiful, Daphne. Just love you so much. And thank you for this inquiry. And thank you to all of us in the circle today. I'm so grateful that we've gotten to spend this time. So Michael and Chris and Daphne, could we bring our palms together at the heart center? Thank you for holding space for each other as we went through this process. I hope it was helpful in every way possible. And we can say the Recovery 2.0 prayer together. Let's inhale to begin. Universe, put us in the places you want us to be, with the people you want us to be with, and doing the things you want us to do. Thank you for the joys and challenges of our lives. Amen. Sat Nam and Namaste.